Hello and welcome to this short but useful, I hope, tutorial on creating a bloom lighting effect. Now, before I go any further, I should tell you the kind of thing that I use this for. Very often people will use a radial gradient to draw attention to their subject. Excuse me making my brush a bit smaller here. They'll use a radial gradient or something like that to try and draw attention to the main subject of their image. This is a different way of doing that, and one that I really love, especially for ICM edits, that kind of very soft impressionist look, or any image really that you want to keep soft, because I find sometimes the radial gradient can just be a little bit too much, and something a bit softer is the way to go. And this is also a great technique for softening down other colours in your image. So let me show you how to do it, and you'll probably start to come up with lots of other ways and reasons for using it yourself. So I've just duplicated my image and turned the bottom one off. Just for safety, I always do it. Okay, so the first thing we're going to do is we're going to select this lady's jacket, this woman's jacket. So that's going to be our colour that we're going to use. So I want to attract attention to her as my subject and the man next to her and the dog. So we want a soft light around all of them. So we're going to do this in 2 stages. So I'm going to come up to select and I'm going to say colour range. And I've been playing around with this. You can see it's already got both of these selected. So we're just going to ignore that. And I'm going to click on her jacket like that. So you can see where my colour pick is floating around. Because I've clicked the sort of burgundy red colour of the coat, you can see over here now on our selection, because there's the selection picked at the bottom, that she's now white, or the jacket's white. Now, if you want to spread the effect, you can turn up your fuzziness. So if you ignore the main image and look over here on colour range, you will see now that that's spread. So the selection itself is spread. And if I pull it down, it reduces it down to just the jacket. So well worth playing around with, depending on how much softness you want in your image, playing around with your fuzziness. So I'm just going to say that is fine. So I'm going to say OK, and it's going to put a selection around my subject. So we're not going to mask. Instead, we are going to come down to our levels adjustment, which is on our adjustment panel here, and click levels. And you will see Photoshop automatically then loads the color range selection we've just made onto the mask that goes with the levels adjustment. And this goes with anything. So if you have got a selection made and you then click on an adjustment, whichever one you like, it doesn't matter, an adjustment, a levels adjustment, a hue and saturation, whatever it might be, anything that comes with a mask, it will automatically load your selection onto the mask that goes with your adjustment layer. So having done that, we now have a levels adjustment, and the only thing that's now going to be adjusted on this levels adjustment is what is in white, which was our selection. So just coming up here to my properties box is tiny, so let's just grab that and drag it out here so we can see it properly. So I now want to bring up this colour. So I am going to, I want some depth to it. So I'm going to drag the black slider down. So I'm using my middle box here to adjust my light. So the colour's being adjusted because the light's being adjusted. And as I come up, you can really see now, because we adjusted the fuzziness, how the effect spreads out. It's not just limited to the coat. So let's just pull that back a bit and pull our white slider up a bit more. So I'm going to make it quite extreme because I'm just trying to labour a point here, really. Okay, so we have put a pretty extreme levels adjustment. That's how we started. That's where we're at now. And as you can see, if I turn that off again, just look at how that has spread out into the surrounding of this of our subjects into the surrounding area. So I love it. So rather than having a big radial gradient or anything with a rigid surface or edge to it, even though you could adjust your radial gradient down so that it's got a soft fuzzy edge, this gives you much more control, because if we'd adjusted our fuzziness, we could have kept it to just this coat. So we've gone that far. So just to recap, we started off on our image, we went filter, we went select, sorry, I'll get this right in a minute. We went select, color range, and then we selected the color of the jacket, and we adjusted the fuzziness so that we ended up with more than just the jacket. Let's cancel that. We then loaded a levels adjustment layer while our selection was still active. And that meant that Photoshop automatically loaded our selection onto the layer mask with this levels adjustment. So having done that, we want this a bit softer. What I would now do is go filter, blur, and a Gaussian blur. As you can see on the little box here how much blur you're creating. So if I slide this right down, there's no blur and there's too much blur. So when you go too far, you've spread that effect out so far on the subject, it's like stretching it. The effect just does no longer exist. So I'm going to pull it back down a bit and say okay to that. So that was what we started with, and that's where we are now. So what we've now done is we have created the light around this couple and the dog. We've blended it into the environment, so it's not a hard line, but equally we haven't got any sort of circle going on. It was very much about colour. If you wanted to go a bit further and adjust it again, you could use your fill, or probably your opacity would work a bit better if it was too strong. I kind of like it as it is. And don't forget, you could also play with your blend modes. So your lighten, screen, colour dodge are going to be the strongest ones. I mean, that's really going crazy. But again, you can pull your adjustment down. I don't like that. I'd probably leave it. Maybe screen, kind of like lighten actually. That's how we started. That's how we've got where we've got to. So it's a really useful little tool, and although I don't do portraits because that's not my thing, this is how the pros would create a bloom light on skin. So in that instance, you would come in with your select colour range and you would pick the colour of the skin. So I've now picked the colour of the beach. So that would be somebody's face. You would adjust your fuzziness, say okay. You've now got a selection, levels adjustment, and it's now selected the sand in this case, but that would be somebody's skin. So once again, I would come up, I'm going to make this a lot lighter, I'm going to pull in the darkness if I want to, and then I'm going to come up and say filter, blur, Gaussian blur, and just adjust that to suit yourself. And again, look at the difference on this area of the beach to this area of the beach. What a difference in just a few clicks. And this is a fabulous way to create light and shadow. So you could come onto this mask and paint black and paint some of this out to put shadows back where you don't want the bright light. So a great fun one to play with. I hope you enjoy that and you find it helpful in your own work. Until next time, thanks so much for joining me. I'll see you soon. Bye for now.